Hi, my name is Morgan Mahan. I am the Book Conservation Fellow here at NEDCC. We will be looking at an 18th century record book that came to us from the Trustees of Reservations. The object's poor condition prevented it from opening properly, so this treatment allowed for easier handling and access to the material. For the treatment, I had up to this point washed the pages, performed treatments to stabilize the iron gall ink, mended tears, and filled losses throughout the text block. I marked and punched holes in each signature in preparation for resewing the book, and I reused the original sewing stations, but I needed to punch through any tissue mends placed over those original holes. Next, I strained wheat starch paste, which is common practice for conservators, to achieve the consistency needed. I used it to paste up the spine of the sewn text block, and this layer of paste holds the pages in place so there's no shifting during rounding and backing. Once that paste had mostly dried, I moved on to rounding and backing the spine, and this helps to disperse some of the swell built up from the tissue mends and thread from sewing. Then 3 layers of tissue and handmade paper were pasted to the spine, a release layer, then a thicker handmade paper between the sewing supports, and then a thinner handmade paper all along the spine. These spine linings strengthen the spine and control how the book lays when opened. At this point, I was ready to make a new cover for the book, which was to be a case binding. For a case binding, the cover is made off the book and then attached to the text block. I cut boards for the front and back cover and a piece of Bristol for the spine piece. I used PVA to glue them down onto a piece of book cloth. I did not use wheat starch paste because I was making a new cover and didn't necessarily need the reversibility or extended open time that wheat starch paste allows. After that, I then trimmed the edges, cut the corners, and made my turn-ins. Once the cover was made, it was time to case in, which is where the text block is attached to the cover. In this case, I had sewn on end sheets with linen hinges, so I glued up the hinge, seated the joint, and closed the cover. I then looked to see that everything was stuck down and repeated this process on the other side. After it was cased in, I nipped it in the press for a short time to set the joints and make sure everything was well adhered. After it was dry, I laid the paste downs, which covered the exposed hinges and board on the interior of the front and back cover. It then goes back in the press to dry under weight for a few hours at least. This will prevent the boards from warping as they dry. And here is the finished book after treatment.